There are some common myths and misconceptions that can really affect the home buying experience or even just discourage people from buying a house in the first place. Believing in some of these misconceptions can even end up costing you a lot of money. So today I'm going to go through some myths and hopefully set the record straight. So let's get into the video. Myth number one, if you don't have a perfect credit score, you're going to need a large down payment. All right, so this just simply is not true. There are many people out there with a less than perfect credit score who can in fact get a mortgage with a down payment that is around 5%. The important thing is to find a lender and sit down with them and actually go through your options. And this is something that a lot of people don't do. They just hear things and then they just feel like, oh, my credit's probably not good enough and I don't have enough of a down payment to actually get a mortgage. So it is true that you can save money by putting 20% down, just because 20% down means that you don't have to go through and insure on the mortgage. So you won't have to pay any of that mortgage insurance. But that's okay. Some people don't have the money saved up. And so for most people, 5% down payment is what they will do. And you certainly don't need a perfect credit score to get approved with a 5% down payment. Let's move on to myth number two. You shouldn't use a real estate agent if you want to save money. So this one is such a head scratcher for me. This could not be further from the truth. Working with a real estate agent, in most cases in the end, will actually save you a lot of money. And I'm going to tell you why. So first off, when you perhaps find a house with a real estate agent that you want to purchase, they will have the knowledge of the market, the real estate market, to be able to share with you whether or not that home is actually priced correctly. So they will provide you with recent comparable properties that are similar to that property. And then you'll know whether or not the price that the sellers are asking is actually accurate, instead of maybe just not having the knowledge or the experience and possibly overpaying for a house. Another thing that real estate agents do is they will negotiate on your behalf or with you. They will help you negotiate. So they're not just negotiating the price, they're also going to make sure that you have the proper conditions in your offer so that in the end you don't lose your deposit. And that's really important. They can also make sure that you include the right unattached goods that can really be an added expense later on when you move into the house if you don't include them in the purchase. Another thing to consider is that real estate agents are legally obligated to share or disclose any material defects about the property. So anything that can be a potential problem, or just maybe water seepage or a problem with the roof or whatever it may be, anything that is known, the real estate agent has to disclose. Whereas if you're buying a house without a real estate agent, a seller is not legally obligated to share this information with a potential buyer. And so if you were to purchase a home, not having anything disclosed to you, later on, you have problems arising that are going to be at your expense to fix these problems. So it is really important to consider that. You could at least save yourself some money ahead of time, knowing the problems that the property has, and maybe you and the seller can split the cost of making these repairs. And lastly, probably the most important thing to consider is that probably 99.9% of the time, the seller will actually be paying the commissions, the full commissions for both sides. So the buyer actually gets the benefit of working with a real estate agent without having to pay any of the commissions. Myth number three is it's good to start with a lowball offer. So unfortunately, I think this idea has come about just simply because there have been buyers out there who have gotten lucky in submitting a lowball offer and have had this offer accepted and therefore purchasing the house for less than market value. So there are a few reasons why this might happen. It's pretty rare in my opinion, but it could happen if perhaps the seller was in a state of desperation. They had maybe had the house on the market for a really long time and they just really need to unload the property. There are cases where a buyer can write an offer at just the right time and the seller will accept it. Another thing is perhaps if they're in a really strong buyer's market and the seller just is competing with too many houses on the market and they're just desperate to sell it. But whatever the case may be, in my opinion, writing lowball offers most of the time will backfire. So one of the things that can happen is it can actually cause the seller to be a lot less likely to accept any future offers from the same buyer just because they've probably been offended by the original lowball offer and feel that their property is not worth that price. And so they're just not considering anything, even if it is a reasonable offer from those specific buyers. So in my opinion, it is much better to submit a competitive offer just to show the sellers that you are a serious buyer. And if you're working with a real estate agent, then they will help you to come up with the value based on the market and the specific property. So myth number 4, you have to complete a traditional home inspection when you buy a house. So by traditional home inspection, I mean an accredited home inspector that comes into the property, inspects the interior and exterior of the home, and then provides you with a report on the findings of their inspection. So while I think that this can be beneficial to some buyers, especially first-time home buyers, and I do think that home inspectors do have knowledge in some areas, I don't think that this is always necessary, and I'll tell you why. So I would instead recommend getting a few inspections from tradesmen that obviously specialize in their trade. So I would first get an electrician. So I would get an electrical inspection, a plumbing inspection to look at the plumbing and the heating, so the furnace as well. And then I would get a contractor to come in to look at things like the foundation and the roof. So the reason why I would recommend this is because, like I say, they are specializing in their trade. They have a great deal of knowledge in that specific area, whereas home inspectors have a little bit of knowledge in all the areas of the property. So to me, those are the biggest things that you need to get looked at when you're purchasing a house: the electrical, the plumbing and heating, the structure and the foundation of the property, and the roof. And a lot of the other things are just seen visually. You can probably walk around the house yourself and see that there's a piece of siding that's cracked or damaged. You don't really need an inspector to come in and show you those things if you're actually looking around at the property yourself. So one other bonus of doing this is when I actually purchased my home, I did this, and we actually ended up paying less money for all 3 of these tradespeople to come in versus getting one home inspection. So it is something to consider. I'm not against home inspectors or home inspections. I think, like I had said, that first-time home buyers can benefit a lot from this because the home inspector will go into a lot of detail and explain things about houses that maybe a first-time home buyer wouldn't know about. So there you have it. To conclude today's video, I just want to let you know that I am here to answer any real estate related questions that you may have. If you're looking to buy a house or to sell a house, make sure you reach out. I'm happy to help. Also, like, comment, and subscribe to our channel, and I'll see you guys in the next video.